So first thing, the SEC announced a lawsuit against the crypto infrastructure company Paxos for issuing BUSD stablecoin. Okay. Crypto exchange Kraken settled with the SEC for offering a staking product. SCC Chair Garri Ghensler openly labeled every crypto asset other than Bitcoin as security, which is bullshit. The Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works held a hearing lambasting Bitcoin for its environmental footprint. The Biden admin proposed a bill that singles out crypto miners for onerous tax treatment. I think they wanted to put it as like 40% tax for Bitcoin miners. The New York Attorney General declared Ethereum the second largest crypto asset a security, which is correct. The SEC continued its consumer protection efforts by doubling down on their attempts to block a spot Bitcoin ETF in court, as well as trying to stop Binance US from buying the assets of the bankrupt Voyager. And the last two here, the OCC let crypto bank Protego's application for a national trust charter expire without approval, and the SEC sent Coinbase a Wells notice indicating its intent to bring enforcement actions against them for a variety of their business lines. I mean, to me, that it's all coming at the same time, and it's just like, this is Operation Choke Point 2.0 in full swing right here. Let's not have any doubt about this. But a few of these things are backfiring because, of course, we've seen the Bitcoin price go up as a result of some of these things happening recently. And it's almost like the harder they try to push, the more it drives people into crypto because they're using their Web 2 legacy system control tools to block the on and off ramps and to do these enforcement actions. And what it's actually doing is it's scaring people away from the system and into Bitcoin because they're starting to see it as neutral money.
Yeah, I mean, the two-class system's just been accelerating. Anybody who's had their eyes open in the last decade have seen it. And what is this? Who is this attacking? This is not attacking billionaires. They own the banks. Their money's secure. They're in sound assets. They don't have to worry about that. It's attacking the millionaires. It's attacking the six figure. Anything over $250,000 it's not your money. And now people are scrambling. They don't trust these centralized institutions with large amounts of money. And I'm talking to people who are rich but aren't elite, right? Who don't own the banks. They're scared. They don't know where to put their money. They don't want to put them in banks. Doesn't matter which bank it is now. Nobody wants to have over $250,000. I was watching a YouTube channel that I like, had nothing to do with finance, had nothing to do with any of these things. And he was saying, hey, if you got $250,000, you want to open up multiple banks. Like everyone's starting to understand the problem now. So what is that going to do? It's like, that's a lot of uncertainty. I can buy Bitcoin. It's been trucking for over a decade. Sure, it might be volatile, but it's mine. And I can store a large amount of purchasing power in it without worrying about it just disappearing one day. And as Bitcoin becomes more resilient, as all the uncertainty, people are saying, hey, Bitcoin, what? It's not at 10K. It's not at 5K. It's almost half from what its all-time high was, which is very impressive in lieu of everything. Because, it's hard to point at an asset at this stage, besides some high-end real estate, that has retained 50% of its value in today's age. Gold and a few others, but stocks have been getting wrecked. It's a war zone. It's PvP. You have to diversify. Crypto has proven that it's not going away. And it used to be people, it was the golden era. People are like, I'm not taking unnecessary risk. Stocks are printing, meme this, meme that. You had all these people, Dave Portnoy, all these people were just making all kinds of killing. Now people are willing to take volatility. They're willing to take risk. And that's going to only accelerate. And that is in favor of high risk, high reward assets such as crypto. And Bitcoin is just such a small little, it's not even $1 trillion asset, such a small little drop in the bucket that there's just not enough room. If a lot of people want to get in, the price has to go up. So for the first time ever, I would say Bitcoin is acting as the safe haven asset that it was designed for. A lot of people thought, the banks are crashing, crypto banks are going down. Get out of crypto. It's like, what? That's like an oxymoron. This is what it was made for. It's like, what, put my money in another bank? I don't know. Like, if I had that much money in a bank, I'd have a panic attack, which sounds crazy. You say it 10 years ago, people would look at you like you're insane. But now people are like, yeah, I agree. I'd feel the same way. Where do you put your money? That's an important question right now. And when you really dig deep down that rabbit hole, you realize there's not much game in town. High-end real estate, it's overblown. It's like art. It's in a bubble. It's definitely not stable. It could go down a lot. Demand can absolutely sink. And real estate was one of the safest assets that you could get into. You say gold, but we live in a digital era. Would you really want to hold gold over Bitcoin in this day and age? I don't know. I wouldn't. More people are, starting to feel the same. So if it shows life and it starts hunting around its all-time high, we could see some dangerous moves to some very extreme volatility. And that's going to shake up a lot of things. As Bitcoin's price rises, as the market cap rises, that puts more pressure on these banks, more pressure on these centralized institutions. Choke point 3.0, 4.0, each one's going to backfire because they can't control it. They can't control the end point for the first time. So they have to be scrambling at this point, which we're seeing the signs of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely pressure on the system. The system feels the pressure, I think there's a few things going on here as well. And I can't put my hand on exactly what they are, but, I don't think anyone's done this yet. And everyone's going crazy about the $1 million bet. Oh, we're going to make $1 million. Get off your high horses, guys. Come back to reality. Like, the whole freaking community is galvanized around this issue that it's going to go to $1 million. And I'm just like, guys, if we're all thinking the same thing, it's going to do the opposite, So be ready for a pullback here. Let me explain a couple more things why I think this can happen here. It's no coincidence that Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, and what was the other one called? Signature Bank. They've all kind of got shut down, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe the value of the bonds on books went down because the interest rates were going up. But then it's like, well, why did that happen? And the regulator steps in to shut these banks down and then make their holders, their depositors whole. I'm like, the Fed sees this as a weapon. The American system sees this as a weapon. When I say that, I don't mean it represents normal American people. It certainly does not. But that system sees the interest rate hikes as a tool in its toolbox to do all sorts of things. I also haven't really seen anyone here, but I've got a good feeling that this is also to do with the Russo-Ukrainian war, right? The Fed's also using the interest rate hikes as a weapon to make the cost of capital expensive, and then it propagates across the world. And I think it hurts the Russian system as much because if you increase interest rates, you reduce demand, and the demand then hurts other economies. And the Americans are going, well, I shouldn't say the Americans, the system is going with the last man standing. We've got the strongest system, so we're like the worst ugly girl in the bar kind of thing, like it's just like the best in the bar, I should say, like the best choice in town of a bad set of choices, right? So the more you increase interest rates, the more pressure you put on the economy worldwide, and the less demand there is, and then the more that hurts other economies outside of the US. So I think that's part of these interest rate hikes as well. The other thing that I haven't seen many people talking about is there will be a point where the Fed will have to pivot, right? They're starting to break some of these banks. I don't think they're done. I think they're going to keep pushing their luck. I think they feel like this is the first wave of things. They're going to try and break a few more things. They're going to push it as far as they can. There's certainly a good chance that they do that. But the problem is, as you can see through history, I haven't heard many people talking about this. When they pivot, they will be forced to pivot at some point. When they pivot, because the market's pricing in like an 80% chance of 4 rate reductions this year in the second half of the year, maybe in the third quarter of this year. When those rate reductions come in, historically, and I think it's like most times, if not all times, the market's crashed 20 to 50%, right? And I have no illusion here that, we can all be happy and think it comes, because again, everyone's saying the pivot's going to come, they're going to start quantitative easing and the market's going to go up. That's not what happens. And if everyone's saying the opposite, you know what's going to happen, right? There's a good chance the markets come down. Now, Bitcoin has decoupled itself from the market, but I don't think it's completely escaped. So I think September, November time, there's a good chance that the pivot happens, and because they're going to try and hold interest rates quite high for a while, the pivot happens. I think the markets can drop. I think the markets can drop significantly, and I think the Bitcoin's going to go through some pressure here. I don't know for sure. Don't take this as financial advice as usual. I should just stop saying that. I don't give a fuck. Just don't trade off what I say because I'm a useless trader. But these are things that I see that no one's talking about, no one's taking into account. So I think we're going to go through some pressure here in the future, but the decoupling has started to happen here, and yeah, they're forcing themselves into a box where they're going to have to pivot. But I don't think the pivot's comfortable. I don't think it's something like where we all celebrate as Bitcoiners and Bitcoin goes to the moon. I think there's a contrarian play here because everyone's aligned in that direction, and you know what the market likes to do. So I don't think we should kid ourselves here. I think we should be ready for some turmoil, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like money.
Right? We're doing the right thing, so it is what it is.
It's not like money's going to make it'll make a difference, but I mean, the game is rigged and there's players at the top pulling all the strings. So if Bitcoin, quote unquote, goes to $1 million, you think they're just going to lose all their power? I mean, there's always going to be a struggle. There's always going to be attacks. You might be a rich Bitcoiner, but you might not be a free Bitcoiner, depending on your jurisdiction, where you live, what you can do with your wealth. These are things that we have to look at because as Bitcoin becomes bigger, as crypto becomes bigger, it's a bigger target, becomes more of a threat. And these giant behemoths of entities don't tend to move until it is a threat because they're so cocky, they're so overconfident. They're not thinking, oh, this weed can turn into an oak tree. We don't have to worry, they don't worry about it. They always assume they can destroy it because the game is rigged. What this is hopefully going to give, if I don't want to live in fairyland, censorship resistance is a constant process. You can lose it tomorrow. If we can stay censorship resistant, we have a network that they truly can't control. We have something to opt out of. And we can stop this absolute bleeding of the two-class system because it's going to get to a point where it's out of control and there's no going back. And when we get to that point, it's over. So we have this alternate system that they can't manipulate, they can't control in terms of shutting down accounts, running through the monetary policy, this and that, controlling it. People can opt in. Communities can start to build their own value. They can start to preserve their own value. And I think the idea of value, what our kids are going to think value, is going to be completely different to what we thought it was. What we thought about was building, stacking, getting as much as you can. I think the definition of value in the future is going to be preserving, holding on, watching it not perish. Those are going to be the people who actually have some kind of wealth because so many people are going to be in bleeding assets. We've been in a bull market forever. What goes up has to come down. Everything's been manipulated. The elite are already planned. It doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do to them because money is an illusion anyway. They control it. The whole idea of value, power, armies, all of this is an illusion, and they controlled it for so long. People have been sheep for so long, they're not just going to wake up. But the game here, and I view life as a game, is to create a censorship-resistant protocol. If we can do that, then we can at least keep it interesting. But what a boring-ass life it would be if we didn't have that and it was just completely centralized and we were all screwed. It'd be a terrible, terrible life, and it'd be a terrible movie. It wouldn't be interesting. So we can at least keep it interesting by holding these ideals true. And
yeah. I think I want to come on to this a bit more here, where you're talking about a weapon here in terms of our secret weapon. Right? I think this is the solution, and I don't see anyone else talking about solutions here from the point of view that they know they can't be censored. I want to come back just briefly though onto Operation Choke Point, combined with everything that we've just said. You can see this really kicking in over the next few months. They're really going to go for the on-ramps. The on-ramps is the important thing because if you can stop the flow into crypto, you can then isolate the people that are in there and you can roll out your CBDC. I'm convinced personally that there's a lot of things at play here. Like these interest rate hikes are damaging a lot of the small banks. At a certain point, I think that there's going to be few enough big banks to consolidate power into a CBDC type system. I think they'll play it. I know other people in the room think that the banks have got a conflicts of interest against the central bank, the commercial banks against the central bank, because why would the commercial banks vote for their own demise? Which means, if there's a CBDC being rolled out, they're voting for their own demise. But I also think there's a power grab here. There's a power play. You cut a deal, you get enough banks consolidated, and then you can move people into a CBDC system. I might be wrong there, but I think that's the play. I think that's where this is all going. I think you cut off the on ramp, so you force people into the CBDC. This is where this is going, and then they're going to try and pariah the crypto people. And you look at like Taskmaster posted a link here from benigncrypto.com. The future of Ethereum is compromised. Scalability and censorship resistance issues loom large. I mean, we've been saying this for years now. You know, Ethereum, it's a compromised chain. It'll do a great job for the banks, but it's not going to look after the little guy who wants to do his own finance and have sovereignty and independence. They are going to censor people and control people's accounts on there. They can already do it. You look at this across the Bitcoin scale. You know, you had an ICO, you had a company, and you're going to get regulated, and you're going to get censored. Gensler's coming for you. That's clear at this point. So then, with all of that being said, I think most people in the world are looking at that because most people don't know about what's being built on DPoS and what's being built on Hive and Speak Network, right? So you look at that as a normal person or even a crypto person, you're going, holy shit, like Chris, I always get his surname wrong, Chris Brin or something like that, Chris Black. He's like a massive black pillar. You know, he doesn't want to be, I don't think. He wants a solution, but he doesn't see one. So he's just giving people this doom outlook on what's going on. I'm living addicted back and forth with him, by the way, because he's a smart guy, but he doesn't focus on solutions, in my opinion. And so there's this like doomer message. And I think most crypto people have got this doomer view now. And they're going to start seeing more and more and more, apart from Bitcoin maxers who think they're like God's gift to the earth, which they're not. So they've also got their own problems with it. And I genuinely think, coming back to what you were saying before, you need to have a censorship resistant mechanism for not only allowing people to get into currency because they're going to block the on-ramps as much as they can, right? That's not going to be the point. The solution is, have you got a censorship resistant mechanism for giving people a way to prove that they're of value and then easily distributing cryptocurrency to them so that they don't need an on-ramp or an off-ramp.
Yep. Circular
crypto, right? That is what the DPoS Hive system is. It's true Web3, you know? And that is the secret weapon. Because once people realize that that's not going to get shut down and it starts to spread, which it's spreading well in Venezuela, Ghana, Nigeria, Indonesia, Philippines, we've got large communities in those places. And Cuba as well. Shout out to Cuba. These things are the freaking solution, because what you're going to be able to do is distribute economic value in an easy way, in a fair way, across wide, vast swaths of the community, regardless of whether there's a choke point operation 2.0 on the on-ramps or the off-ramps. That's not going to mean shit, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, this is coming to a head, you know, and we are ready. We are ready, and to me, that is one of the most exciting. This is one of the most exciting things, times to be alive. Because of this, we have the freaking answer right here, you know.
Yep.
And when I say we, there's fucking thousands of us. I'm not talking about just me and our team or whatever. There's thousands of us all over the world, you know.
Yeah. So one of the things that people overlook, when the biggest attack on crypto, I think by far, was the misinformation of that damn triangle, which it should just be a line that Vitalik coined. Because I've talked to people all over the world that use Hive, and I'll ask them questions. I'll say, how much do you use Ethereum there? Oh, we might get into like an ERC or whatever. I'm like, no, how much do you use it? Do you send your friend Ethereum? They're like, no, we use Hive or Lightning Network. Okay. People don't understand how much a barrier 5-cent fee is. That's censorship to a large part of the population. The biggest threat, and this is clear as day to me now, that this was the misinformation, the triangle, all the bullshit, all the things this is all purposeful. Because the biggest threat is a feeless, permissionless currency or value transfer of any kind. When you remove the fee, you remove the barrier, you remove the censorship. And that is why Hive, without centralized funding, spread like wildfire in places like Venezuela, Ghana, any places that don't have critical infrastructure for banks. You have some of these people who are trading phone credits. Why? Because they're cheap and fast to move. Well, imagine a value transfer like HBD, where you can earn interest, feeless, instant. The banks, every middle person alive is terrified of that. That's like the AI to their job. They're absolutely useless now. And that is why all these famous chains have high-ass fees. Use the Lightning Network, or AKA use a centralized custodian, because every single person, I'm not saying one, every single person that I've asked that use the Lightning Network does not run their own node. The only person I know is Brian.
Brian.
And he runs a business. And he says it's fucking hard. None of these people are using Lightning Network the way they should in terms of thinking they have censorship resistance. They use it because it's fast and fearless and convenient. Well, once that becomes censored, and it will 100% become censored. All the custodian Lightning Network wallets will. They have no choice. Assume it. HBD is not censored. And they're collecting interest. And they have a named account. And they can post the coffee they bought with HBD and earn a little bit of the governance coin. They can power that governance coin up and they can vote their community up, distributing the governance coin deeper into rabbit holes we could never find ourselves. VCs couldn't find that. Nobody can find that except the peer-to-peer nature of a feeless value transfer that is instant. So I think people have no idea the Trojan horse that Hive is. When you talk about possibilities, how you win, and this is the biggest secret, and I've learned this a while ago, you give and you get more. Jesus was right. You give and you will get way more in return. You build wells in Ghana, your network becomes unstoppable. Because the only way they stopped Hive, money attack, we welcome that. We welcome the greatest attack. Please attack us. Please make us rich beyond our wildest dreams. I don't think any Hiver has any problem with that. Or misinformation, isolation, deeming us illegal, toxic, so nobody touches us. Oh, well, let's shine the spotlight in Ghana, in Venezuela, or any of the other countries where we're changing lives and contributing. You try to do that, you get the pitchforks. You look like an idiot. Your hand is shown. You can't be a tyrant. That's what people don't understand. Most people think governments aren't tyrants. They don't think they're bad people. If they did, there'd be a revolution overnight. So all the billions and trillions of dollars in propaganda, CNBC, Fox, whatever the news station is, if it's a news station, automatically assumed it's corrupt. All this garbage they're feeding, all the division, all the propaganda, all the noise, they do that because they're scared. Because if you knew the truth, there'd be a revolution overnight. People just automatically assume they know as much as we do, or think like we think in terms of adversarial thinking. Like, oh, well, it's not about they can't or they won't. It's about they can't. You got to put yourself in a situation where you have that insurance. You have that place to back out to. So, yeah, I think I see a big, giant, sleeping monster in the Hive network, and every single upvote, every single person that holds HBD, it's accelerating at a rapid pace now. So an attack, it's very, very, it's going to backfire if you try to attack at this point. So I think that's what's going to be the catalyst.
I want to reiterate what you're saying here. From my point of view, I think this is so critical. I'm loving that we're having this conversation, and the people listening to this in this room, this is so important in my opinion. You're gonna have the choke point, Operation Choke Point 2.0. You're gonna have the on-ramps made illegal or regulated. It's very likely that Hive will be classed as a security, even though it's not, and it will be delisted from US exchanges because the people running the US exchanges are regulatable entities, which is a massive mistake. We will have to make our own liquidity pools. We need to have a Bitcoin to Hive liquidity pool, and that's critical. Happy to work with anyone on that. If anyone wants to propose building that out, we're happy to put some resources in to get that built. That's going to become controversial. It may even get to the point where using a Hive account is made illegal, right? That's where it ultimately gets to, because once you have a system that cannot be shut down and doesn't get affected by the on-ramps and off-ramps and can distribute cryptocurrency in a fair way to people who are providing value back to the community. I mean, it's kryptonite. It's kryptonite to the system. It's the antithesis of the system. And the system cannot accept it. So I think there's a very good chance we go in here, right? So like Dan was saying, what's our secret weapon? What's our tool? It's the community projects being built in Ghana, building water borehole projects in Ghana. I think we're on number 6 now, right? And the media around that, the positive view that creates. It's the exercise equipment and parks that are being built, funded by Hive in Venezuela, and the media that they're creating around that, and the lives that are being changed around that. It's the pay your heating bill in Cuba using HBD, right? Which is what those guys are doing as well. And they've got a big, fast-growing community. if we increase the number of these things, and don't forget, in these communities, like places like Hyber, like Cuba, it's only like $30, $40 a monthly salary, right? So an upvote to these people means a lot, right? This is key stuff. We can really influence lives and fund things over in these countries, borderless, without having to worry about KYC. The KYC is done by our community. We are the judge of whether or not you're KYC, right? That's the problem here. This technology allows the community to govern that process, right? And that's what we do organically. So we can distribute this currency to these communities, and they can create their own self-funded projects that are beneficial to that community itself. If you try and shut that down as an authority, as a state, right, you say that's bad because, of course, secretly it's bad for you as a state, but it's not bad for the people benefiting from the projects. And there's no illegal shit going on here. There's no like people being exploited or anything like that. This is legitimate, good, great stuff for people. Distributing currency to fund community-run projects in local communities around the world, right? In places where the money goes far, That's if we do this and we get a critical mass of some sort, right? It's impossible to shut down, because if you try and shut that down, you look like a tyrant. That's our defense. Layer zero, again. Layer zero, the community is the defense. It's the ultimate super weapon. You can't shut that shit down. Once it's out there and the ideas are out there and there's evidence that these projects are being built out there, you try to shut that down as a government, you just look like a tyrant. And you may even get pushback politically, because if it's wide enough spread and there's enough representatives in the parliament that know about this stuff and that are benefiting from it from their communities as well, we can easily get to that point. You're not going to be able to shut this stuff down as a tyrant. You're going to have to join it. And at that point, when you join it, you're Gandhi, Yeah,
I mean, it gets to a point where you've received something as a community, it's changed your life. That makes you love it and appreciate it. And now some tyrant tries to take it away from you. This is my clean water. This helps my family. That's a fear. I already have the fear of not having clean water. What are you going to do to me? You're going to start openly just taking people away? Well, good luck with that. And then B, hey, we know what you're doing is bad. And once enough people do that, the bully in the room gets isolated. And that's the last thing these government or large entities want. So it's imperative. It is imperative to use this technology for good, because we reap what we sow. And when people understand how censorship resistant, and I know that's almost like a scary word, but it's our shield. It's what protects us. And without it, we'd all be vulnerable, and we'd all be at the whim of losing the foundation that we're building. I see it accelerating. The fun thing is, this isn't something we can talk. Even if we didn't, it's happening. It's happening everywhere. You don't have to advertise this. It's like a field that's ripe and fertile. It's going to be found, and people are going to grow stuff on it. You don't have to advertise that it's there. People are finding this out word of mouth. You can't stop it at this point. It's just happening. And you can try to hate it. You can try to silence it. It's in too many hands. It's already hit a critical mass. Now it's just a point of watching it flourish and develop, and we contributing as much as we can. There's no one person that's going to do anything. We can just accelerate it. We can be the wind to the sails, but it's already in place as far as I'm concerned. It's very.
I mean, I can't reiterate enough. We'll move on after this point, but I can't reiterate enough how important these community projects in these countries are. Because that's our defense. If they try and shut us down, which they very likely will, and especially as people get squeezed by the system, it's very clear that this is where we're going now. I mean, maybe we're wrong. Maybe there's still like a 5% chance that this is all us overreacting, right? But the writing's almost on the wall here. Even people in these countries are going to get squeezed. They're using the interest rate rises to put a lot of pressure on other economies as well as the US. The US is like suffering the least out of all these other economies. And then the answer to this is a censorship-resistant distribution process, exactly which is what we have on Hive, and the defense to that being let's say, singled out and called a terror. You know, who knows? You use Hive, you're a terrorist. Yeah, I can see that type of shit coming in the media. That's where they're going to take it. You know, if this thing kicks off. And the direct answer is just send them a blog of frickin' water wells going up in Ghana. Call me a terrorist now. You know, like, no way. This is the kryptonite. It's the kryptonite, and I just, the more support we can get to these communities that are building these community grassroots projects that are going to benefit the communities, you can't shut that down. You can't stop that. You can't stop that. You can't stop that. You can't stop that.